Okay. If everyone could just find their way to their seats, please. Okay, so welcome back. I hope everyone found our morning opening sessions informative and helpful, and some of those discussions will continue. And in the same vein as that, our board recently had a strategic retreat to talk about sort of the road ahead over the next 24 months, especially as leadership at FOLA changes and we look to head to new challenges. And one of the predominant themes that emerged from those discussions was about getting our plenary back to a place where we have more dialogue. We often have a lot of talking heads, I think, and the presentations have been very good, but a main purpose of plenary and why we call it a plenary is because it's supposed to be an opportunity for dialogue as well. And so we need to get back into a place where there's more of that sort of facilitated discussion in addition to the informal chatter that goes on at this conference. And so with that in mind, we want to try something a little bit different this time. And what we've done is we've assembled 5 sort of top line issues that are things we're interested in hearing from you on. And so on your tables, you'll see a QR code. That's a web survey link. If you could just take a minute with your mobile device and you can scan that, it'll take you to the survey site. There are 5 multiple choice questions. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask for your answers to the questions, and then we're going to sort of go through them and invite comments, reactions, questions from you with the time we have on those topics. So I think Bill is out there somewhere with he's over there with the roving mic. And so if you want to speak to any of the topics when we get there, please wave him down and he'll bring the microphone to you. We're going to try to just stay a few minutes in each question so that we get through them all. And if we don't, the conversations can continue after this session and throughout the time we're here together in Hamilton. So on your screen, you'll see the live results coming in for the very first question. So thanks to everyone who's filling that out right now. And the first question is really just asking for what your primary concerns are for your law associations. Already seeing some pretty definitive results coming in there around attracting lawyers and paralegals. So maybe with that, I'll just open it up. We'll spend a few minutes in each question. And I've got Sam and Ian here with me to field some of these. Sam, do you want to add something?
No, actually, unfortunately, we don't have a few minutes. We've got very limited time, but that does not stop here. We could always have a dialogue outside of here during the breaks or in the evening and whatnot.
Yeah. And the best thing is that if FOLA is doing something wrong, Sam will be the chair tomorrow, and yes. you can tell him all about it.
But could always blame it on Doug. He's the past chair.
Yes. So with that, so the first question is around primary concerns for your associations. Any reactions, questions, thoughts on that we could open the floor to? I know there's, obviously some linkage here with work we've already done at FOLA around getting the Law Society to focus more on this issue, but how we get lawyers and paralegals, particularly at the start of their careers, into underserved areas of practice and underserved communities. So any comments about the situation? I see over there from CCLA and back there in Nipissing. Yeah, we'll open it up. We'll start with Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
Thanks. And just, I think the roaming mics because you're recording it, just for future. So one thing that's come up in our association, not that we have a shortage of lawyers. If any of you want some, we have lots. So maybe that's one solution. But in terms of the underserved areas and your comment about trying to attract more people to move there, the Law Society has an initiative for those who will declare sole practice starting next year of taking a mandatory course for which they will be required to pay. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of nodding as soon as I say that. One obvious thing that we have observed and suggested to the Law Society, but perhaps more could do so, is that there must be a way to inspire those who wish to be soles in rural areas to service those areas or underserved areas, that there should be some way to offset the cost of declaring a sole practice if you intend to do so in an underserved area. There has to be a way to inspire or incent those who wish to move to that area to have a sole practice. And it seems rather obvious to me that the Law Society can do so by tying it to that sole practitioner course. And they haven't overtly said so, but I see an opportunity. And so perhaps if more associations in areas smaller than that of the City of Ottawa were to vocalize that, that may get some traction. So I put that out there to you and your associations for consideration and whatever you may wish to do with it. So
thank you. That's
Thanks.
a great insight. Appreciate that. Gord at the back, I think, had something to offer on this.
We had a conversation, and we've talked about this at Plenary often, about the placement service that Lakehead has, Borlaston Law School, and the old Ryerson, which is the Metropolitan something. TMU. Eldon has a student from the Borlaston Thunder Bay. We've had two very successful, so they come in for 4 months, and you're not allowed to pay them. And then you get to try them out, and we normally hire them. It's been a very successful endeavor for us, and yeah, that's how we attract people.
Thanks for that. And just for those who don't know, those Borlaston students complete that as coursework and substitute for articles. Our firm has one right now. She is exceptional. We're just delighted with her, so I commend that option to your associations. Anything else on attracting, or the primary concern for your associations are attracting lawyers and paralegals? I see also some, comments and responses here on working with Learn, managing staff, running CPDs, financial sustainability, technology. Any other reactions to this question prompt?
Just on the note, it's also related to attracting lawyers and paralegals, but I know that there is an OSAP incentive to work in Northern Ontario communities in the medical field. And if that's something that maybe could be put to some of the stakeholders that might make those sorts of decisions, like young lawyers in the North make, on paper, much less than lawyers in other communities, and there's often, less access to housing and options. And with that in mind, law school costs the same. A degree costs the same no matter where you end up practicing. So I know that an incentive that the province put in for nurses and other medical practitioners was a certain amount of time spent practicing or working in northern communities, or in particular areas that were underserviced, could forgive some of their loans and things like that were coming from the province. I don't know the intricacies of how that works, but just wondering how that might apply with respect to trying to solve the problem earlier. Because if we're incentivizing them, as they're making career plans, 1L, 2L, 3L, we might be able to catch some of those talented folks early and keep them in communities that need them. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. On that note, I know the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund offers workplace development grants that can be used to bring people into new professions. And so those of you who are defined as being in Northern Ontario, which is probably a bit bigger than people who live in Rainy River and Kenora would think is Northern Ontario, might be able to take advantage of that. So any other questions on this one before we move on? Oh, over there, Peel.
Hi, it's Joanne Lagudas from Peel. On the running CPDs issue, we're fortunate enough, we put on at least 2 to 3 a month. What we've done to help some other smaller associations around us is just to market our CPDs for them, since they're not able to put them on. And then if they ever have an event or anything like that, we'll market it back for them just to help them out.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the next prompt, so I want to get through all these. So I'll get Ian to flip to the next question. So this question's around the Wi-Fi and internet in courtrooms at your local courthouse. So if you could just respond to that one if you haven't already, and we'll watch those results come in. Everyone can tell us about their terrible Wi-Fi. Wow, what an indictment of court services.
That's a big surprise.
So
for people that are asking questions, if you could identify yourself and your association, please, because we are recording this.
thank you.
Hi, it's Edward Kiernan from Norfolk County. This week we had our Wi-Fi just go down at the courthouse in Simcoe. So there was just no Wi-Fi. I was in the middle of criminal remand court, and there was a long list. And so we had 3 hours where the rest was just offline and picked up again later. And they did that by using they moved the Zoom to Cayuga, to the Cayuga courthouse, and reran it from there. And by the end of the day, the technicians had come and fixed the problem. I was in family court the same day, and they managed to run it without any Wi-Fi at all. And our judge's comment was that, there was a time when we ran courtrooms without the internet. and so the fact that the Wi-Fi goes down shouldn't just cause business to stop. It ought to be possible to take out a piece of paper and continue. So I think it's unfortunate that we're so vulnerable to shutdown of something as simple as a Wi-Fi going out of service for a few hours can throw the system into there ought to be a backup plan for when the Wi-Fi is down. They improvised well in Simcoe, but not in the criminal court, but they improvised well in the other court.
Yes, the troubleshooting leaves much to be desired sometimes. I'm going to suggest we actually. Yes, go ahead.
I see 43% of bad Wi-Fi or it doesn't work well. And I'm just wondering, by show of hands, to see if the MAG Solgen is being offered, and that's what you reference as bad or it doesn't work. Because there is 2 types of Wi-Fi's available in the courthouse, both with MAG. One is a guest where you have to sign or log on, where the other one is open to the public. So for my purposes, I'd like to know, A, are you using the MAG one with the sign-on or just the guest Wi-Fi? Can I have a show of hands for A, are you using MAG? Okay, are you using sign-on or just the guest? Sign-on, and is it bad? All right, so we're gonna have to talk to.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to be presenting this to the MAC. And all of you who have written bad or intermittent and you want better service, I need you to email me, preferably right now, with the name of your association and the Wi-Fi that you're using and what the problem is.
Yeah.
Because when I go to the MAC, they're going to ask me, what are the courthouses that have issues? And then they're going to look into it. And if I can give them specifics that come directly from you, it's much more effective. So if you can do that now, or in the next hour or so, email me ian.hu@fola.ca. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to advocate for you.
And Karen Seeley, Northwest Rep, don't forget those courthouses that don't have Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ian knows my pet peeve.
And I don't even know about those. So other than Karen's district, email me if you have any issues. I know about
So
Karen.
let's take one last comment on this before we move to the next question.
Hi, Jennifer Balduke at Waterloo Association. So our courthouse is one of the newer ones. We don't, at least I personally haven't had too many issues with Wi-Fi at our courthouse, but I think it directly relates to how old the building is for the Wi-Fi. So like if I go to, and I don't, you know what, I'm not even going to go there. I will send you an email with the ones that are difficult, but it definitely relates to the age of the building.
Thank you. I see Alan.
Okay, I've got one more over here.
Good morning, Alan Weinproll. I just want to make one comment. I was at the Divisional Court recently, downtown Toronto. Talk about an old building. That is a very old building, but the Wi-Fi was excellent there. So, if they can do it there, they can do it in other places as well.
Thank you, Alan.
Kel Surprise. Okay, well, let's move on to our next question. So we'll flip ahead. And this one asks what services FOLA should explore for associations. So asking for your input on the scope of services that we should provide to our members. So let's watch those come in.
The fifth one is to provide same or similar infrastructure across the associations. The first one is internet only having to do with the association, the library, not going into a courtroom, but in the library.
Any comments on these as they come in? Number three, in the past, FOLA has had like group travel arrangements that could be purchased to travel with other lawyers if anyone was so inclined.
Well, you can take work with you if you want.
Define fun.
I went to China on one of them, took my kids, it was awesome.
All right, there you go, testimonial.
And cheap.
All right, over here.
One of the questions that came to my mind when I read this one was, after being one of the solicitors in the room and having gone through the dramatic 1,000% pricing increasing on conveyancing software during the pandemic, I started a search to look for different law practice management software of all different kinds. And there's no comparisons. I can look for an office chair and find lots of comparisons, find reviews and so on. There's nothing, nada, zero when it comes to conveyancing software, stuff like PC Law or Leap or Clio. Nothing. There's no real comparison. There's no review. And when I started asking questions of various entities, well, we don't want to get in trouble with them. That's something that I'd really like to see FOLA do, even though we're being sponsored by some of these folks. But I think it would be really helpful for our membership in every association so that we can make really informed decisions about what we're buying. Thanks.
Thanks. The law study had reached out to us, going back to Sean's comment earlier about the course that new sole practitioners take. And one of the pieces of feedback we did give to them when they were developing that is that, the Law Society often is hesitant to recommend software for obvious reasons, but, it's not useful to learn about practice management in a vacuum. Like, what tools are people actually using to do this stuff and meet these requirements? And so I think that your comment is kind of aligned with that, is that what actually meets the needs of practice. Up here, Peter.
I don't think our sponsors will appreciate this comment, but I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to develop software ourselves that's more simple, because these things are like a massive cost to small firms and sole practitioners, and a lot of them just don't meet all of our needs.
Very interesting.
You must have some spare time.
I certainly am not engaged in that area of practice of law, but my husband is. And we have a local lawyer, the last name's Fazio, and I was at an engagement at someone's home, and I happened to be chatting with he and his wife, and their son has developed such a software package, and his father's real estate lawyer locally, and a colleague of my husband, and they were telling me about the program, and they are marketing it. I don't remember the name. I could look that up or easily access that. And I asked my husband about it, and I was told that this is actually something up and coming. It's a good idea, certainly, and some people are actually trying to accomplish that, or perhaps even have.
Thank you.
Great.
Dan had his hand up.
There's an...
Dan,
Hello, Mark Gevidoni. On the tail end of that, I agree. One of the challenges has been, one is the pace with that. Once Unity, gave its second 400% increase, it actually did kickstart a number of players in that field to start re-evaluating and reformulating what their tech offerings are and could be. But it's also generated a slew of other potential opportunities, like Terry has mentioned, some of which can't get off the ground. And I know lawyers like to think they know how to do everything better than everybody else, but that is something that is a work in progress. I honestly think that we can start a process of assessing what's currently on the market, the pros and the cons, but we do need to be mindful about how current that is, because it seems to be every 3 months changing again. On this other element, again, I'm just a real estate lawyer, but I think I've been hearing issues about the fact that there's inconsistency on like robing rooms and things like that that courthouses or law associations could provide access to that's consistent across the province. And maybe that's part of where the infrastructure comment might come from.
Thank you. Bill, Dan had his.
One at the back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go to the back, and I think Dan had his hand up, and then I think we should move to the next one.
Yes.
So, Robert Carnival from the Essex Law Association. I might be early on this, but I have a lot of, as a younger lawyer, I have a lot of colleagues, friends from law school that have mentioned there is no main space, general sort of messaging board or some form of platform for lawyers to discuss things with lawyers. So when we talk about conveyancing software and everything else, that's great. Absolutely. That's stuff that would also be helpful to be able to put to verified lawyers, something walled off that lawyers can talk to and say, hey, how's anybody here using Leap? How's Leap working out for you in a XYZ law firm? And lawyers can respond. Criminal Lawyers Association, I do know, does have the mailing list. They're emailing each other all the time. I got off of that. Thankfully, there's like 1,000 a day. But something that it's something where lawyers across Ontario can communicate with to ask questions like that, where we're not, because everyone's scared to put it in front of the public, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants access. Something that's walled off, lawyers on the rolls can actually communicate, would, I think, be tremendously useful, not just for smaller firms, but for newer lawyers coming in, might attract newer lawyers, and simple questions you don't want to go to the senior partner and look like an idiot asking questions about. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. That's a good insight. Maybe Reddit for FOLA members. I think Dan had his hand up here, and then maybe we'll move on after his comments.
Hi, Dan Pennington from Law Pro. Under the Practice Pro banner, we put out a lot of technology content over the years, and that's fallen off a little bit as I got distracted with other things. But next year we plan to put out more content. One of the more popular things we did in the distant past were in-person breakfasts that were tech demos from different vendors at the Law Pro office. Of course, now we have the internet and Teams and Zoom and all of that. So next year we're going to be starting up doing product demos. Hard to do an evaluation as against the different products because so many of them, look like they do work in one area, but they do work in a bunch of areas. They're very complex, and they change very, very regularly. But I think at least the breakfast and the content we will hope will give people a basic ground comparison of this to this to this, which would be a good starting point. And we won't per se take a position or recommend one over the other, but as we did in the past, we would focus in on the more widely used products, which is some indication of what they deliver and what their different benefits are. So I hope we can help meet that need on that front going forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
If you want to talk more about this, today's session at 3:55 to 4:30, breakout session number 1, Collective Wisdom Solo Practice Roundtable. Ricken and Rachel will talk about the tech that they use and the comparisons they've done, and they're very good with that, I found.
Thank you, everyone, for those comments. We have about 6 minutes left. We'll try to keep the last two questions pretty concise. So the next one is, what should we think about regarding the future of plenary and the format in which we gather? This is something that we've reflected on a few times at the board, but we really wanted to hear from those who attend. Obviously there's a bit of a sampling bias because you're all here, but still welcome your comments about, whether we continue to do 2 of these a year, whether they're in person or remote, what sort of options we offer in that domain. So let us know your thoughts.
So the first one is, should one or both plenaries be remote or in person? So in other words, should we put our thought toward remote versus in person? And should we put our thought toward the second question, should we have 2 plenaries or less? Or third, should we open up attendance at one or both plenaries to members of associations and not just presidents and delegates?
So hand raised at the back there.
Morgan Fletcher from Kenora District Law Association. My comments are just so much is remote now, and especially coming from the Northwest where we don't see each other in person a lot, and as a family law lawyer who isn't a criminal lawyer, who seem to be the only people that see each other in person, I think that doing things like this in person is really valuable for forming connections. I've met a lot of people that I never would have met otherwise, and that I don't think I would have met remotely. So keeping that in mind, yes, it can be inconvenient to get here, but I think it's really, really valuable for forming the relationships and connections in person that you can't get remotely.
Thank you.
Hamilton's also a vacation for us, so thank you. It's my first time to Hamilton.
Thank you for that. And that's a common theme we've had, is that, the meeting isn't just the formal people who are presenting, it's the other connections that go on, and we don't necessarily have the best way to replicate that virtually. So anything else on this topic before we move ahead? Did you guys want to add anything on this? Not my department. I think the last question is really about, the last option on that one is really about whether or not one or both of the plenaries should be more open as a more general conference for law association members. And that's something, we can continue to have dialogue with you about, whether that's something you would think is useful. There might be opportunities as a revenue sustainability source for FOLA as well. So the last question is about, if lawyers are leaving your region, what practice area is most underserved?
Yeah, we've got someone in the back.
I would say on this question, sorry, Robert Carnival from Essex Law Association. On this question, in the Essex Law Association in the Essex County, we have too many family lawyers, and we have almost no lawyers taking child protective service cases. So I voted for that one, but child protective services, woefully. We have lawyers that do them that are taking lawyers at other firms under their wing, just so that there's more people in the area.
Interesting.
Just based on Rob's comments, and I'm wondering by show of hands, when you say family child protection, if you're referred to child protection, can I just please show of hands, please?
Could you keep your hands up? I'm going to count.
That's a lot.
That's almost 27.
So the question was, based on the vote, there is 38 votes of the need for family or child protection, and I just wanted to be specific as to who is referencing child protection lawyers. Yeah, so there's a lot of...
So not family, but child protection.
Yeah. Okay.
Only child protection.
Yeah.
Like it's worse than child protection. Yeah, but... Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this one? We've got just 1 minute left.
Thank you. So Katie from Thunder Bay. We just sent out our criminal list not too long ago, and it is extremely short.
So it's not so much that lawyers are leaving the region who are practicing criminal law, it's that they're just not starting. And for whatever reason, like our list of criminal lawyers is extremely small, and people just aren't getting into that area. It's not so much that they're leaving, but that they're just not starting.
Thank you for that. We can probably have time for one or two more quick comments on this.
Jillian from Lennox and Addington. I think the thing with the child protection is like 99.9% of it is done by a legal aid certificate. And in all the years, I've had one private child protection client. And so if you're not on the panel for child protection in legal aid, it's just not happening. And I can speak to sort of my the associations to the east and the west. I know it's the same situation because I'm getting calls to do child protection in those areas as well as our area.
Thank you.
Bill, there's someone behind. Okay, there's actually Peter as well in here.
Yeah.
You're making me run.
Getting your
It's your
steps
last
in.
plenary. Got to work for it.
Hi, my name is Josephine. I'm actually a lawyer for the York Region Children's Aid Society. So on behalf of the lawyers who work for Children's Aid Society, I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone in the room who is a lawyer who takes legal aid certificates and assists families with child protection. There aren't enough of you, and we wish there'd be more. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I think, okay, go ahead.
Hi, Riley Johannesson from Perry Sound. I'm a criminal lawyer, and I just want to make absolutely clear to everybody that these aren't just people whose relationships are breaking down and they get a legal aid certificate and can't find a lawyer. These are the most vulnerable people in the province. If they're qualifying for a family legal aid certificate, if their children are subject to child protection proceedings, this has everything to do with vulnerability. And I just wanted to make sure that we're absolutely clear on that, which I expect you all are anyway.
Thank you. Can we, last comment up here is Peter's, and then we'll have to close out this session.
I just wanted to share that I think one of the ways that this is very problematic compared to criminal is that the shortage of family lawyers means there's no one available to handle emergency matters. So I have, 2 to 3 calls a week of someone, they need something right now, and I'm not available. I can't possibly take on something new for 3 to 4 months out at a time. And I think more than any other area of law, it's family and child protection where when someone needs a lawyer, they need one that day. Usually because they've caused their own problems and sat on it for too long, but still they need a lawyer that day.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for your comments. I hope this format was interesting and helpful for you to provide your thoughts and see what others are thinking. This conversation can continue throughout the plenary informally, but also at your regional breakfast tomorrow morning. And of course, you can always send us your comments afterwards on any of these or other themes. We are going to move ahead now, and I'm going to invite Bill to come up and introduce our next speaker. Thank you again for all of your feedback on these top-level issues for us.